All right, let's talk about the pandemic and what the daylight robbers in Washington are doing. So I always say that they're criminals, that they're thieves, they're robbers, that they are the enablers of just about every single wrong that can possibly be put into place to give those who have the motivation, the money, the will to push for policy that will give them outsized advantage. And I've often called them the mafia because that's exactly how they are acting. So uh, I'm gonna name a name, and this is not an endorsement of this guy, of this person. Okay, this is not to say that he's to be trusted on everything because he's a whack job in in certain areas, such as China. He's a complete and utter whack job there. But he is right about the trillions of dollars that they have that the criminals on in Washington, who are arm in arm with those criminals in the state and the criminals in the corporations, because they're all criminals. They're high criminals. They're high treasonous criminals. In that they have basically given themselves trillions of dollars, done daylight robbery, and we have a media who isn't being truthful or honest, and check out Matt Stoller's interview on Democracy Now. Also on Jimmy Dore's show, and on everything but particularly on Jimmy Dore's show when he's talking about China, he's absolutely utterly unhinged when it comes to China. And understand, I am Korean by birth. I was born in South Korea. So I am not pro-Chinese. I'm pro-people, but not pro-Chinese. So understand that I am naming Matt Stoller, and for you to check him out on Democracy Now! On Jimmy Dore's show. But I am not endorsing this guy. He still has a level of insanity that's just critically, that means that he is critically absent in thinking when it comes to his prejudices. And he has got clear prejudices. So, on China, he's seeing what the government, what the quote unquote government is doing, what the quote unquote corporations are doing, all these quote unquote legitimate people. So check it out, because everything I've looked into points to that this trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars that they're calling the coronavirus bailout bill won't be helping the average Joe, won't be helping the small businesses, because the small businesses and the average Joe, the average people, the everyday people, the backbone of the country, won't have to stop paying their mortgages or their rent, and while the wealthiest don't have to pay their mortgages, they don't have to pay their rents, they don't have to do any of that. They can buy out the smaller businesses and create bigger monopolies for themselves, because there's nothing in it that says they can't. Just like there's nothing if you run for election, which you need money to do, which you need the media to back you, and so on and so forth. So, which means that if you truly want to represent, you're not going to be able to get into office. AOC got into office, but I think she lucked out in certain ways, in her timing. But that is not the case for many other AOCs who have tried to run, who have not had a chance. So basically, you need money, and you need an army who will back you to the hilt. So understand that this. If you're someone like me, I have $15,000. I get $15,000 a year to work with. So if you're making $40,000 or less, you get bupkis, nada, zilch. If you make under 75,000, you get $1,200 or more, plus child credit. If you make over 75,000, you get a little less, but you still get more. You still get more than those of us who make under 40. So, as I said, those of us who make under 40 get bupkis, nothing, nada, zilch, zero. And small businesses, they get a loan, and it's got stipulations that you got to keep your employees. Now, understand, you can't keep your employees if you have to keep paying your rent and your mortgage. If you are forced to cut because your business isn't open for business. So that whole thing is crap, and yet the big businesses, they don't have any stipulations that they can't cut, employees, that they can't downsize the employees and all that other stuff. So this is why it's daylight robbery. This is why I continually say that they are crooks, that they are criminals, that we should not stay silent. We should be out there using forceful terms, saying, get the fuck out, go turn yourself into jail, or face the consequences of us coming to your house or to your place of business, dragging your ass out and hanging you from the nearest fucking tree or telephone pole. Because that's what we should be doing. This whole nonsense of non-violence. Non-violence is fine so long as the violence isn't being done to you and they can get away with it. And policies that rig it, like this bailout, is violence. When you have the TV pundits calling out bullshit and outright lies for people who are telling the truth, That is violence. When they're saying that people are Russian propagandists, that is violence. This is why I say nonviolence is only a tool to protect those who have power. And so long as we buy into it, and so long as we don't make distinctions about ethics, about natural ethics, natural good, if we don't clarify what violence is, and violence is things that are done, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, whether it's policy or law or rules or regulations, if society doesn't fight back, if the majority of people don't fight back and say, no, that's bullshit, we're not standing for it, you're gonna correct it, or you're gonna get out and you're gonna put yourself in handcuffs and walk yourself to jail. Or we're gonna do it for you, or we're gonna permanently end you. That is the attitude we need to take. This whole idea that we can't make distinctions like this, that we can't stand up for these natural distinctions, is complete bullshit. It's bunk. You're only a child if you buy into it. You're only a child if you perpetuate it. You're only a child if you do not fight back against it. You're only a child if you do not enforce natural law. Equity and equality and equanimity and freedom and liberty, that's all bullshit if you cannot stand unified in solidarity against crimes and sins committed against the natural laws of the universe, of the world. There is no equanimity. There is no democracy. It is the ruled and the rulers. That is what it comes down to. It is the rulers who cherry pick those who should have a little bit more than the ruled, than the average ruled. That to keep their favor, because they understand they can't be rulers if they don't have enough of the ruled who are shown slightly more favor. That is how it works. This is a class war, and it must become a literal war. Force must be shown. Distinctions must be made. Otherwise, we should all just lie down and die. Otherwise, we should all take a gun or a knife and stab ourselves or shoot ourselves. Because this sort of thing will bring about the Armageddon, the end. And it was because we allowed it to happen. It's because we bought into it. It is because we wish to stay children. And that's actually, I'm actually not being all that fair, because there are children out there who see natural reality and natural law, who are speaking out about it, and they are acting like mature grown-ups. I've always been one into heavy metal and heavy hard rock. But it's not all heavy metal and hard rock. Uh, there has to be a message in there of natural law. Papa Roach does a good job of that. Rage Against the Machine does a good job of that. It's a message. It's a good message. It's a message saying we must stand up for ourselves. We must become. We must build a solidarity that stand up for ourselves. That we should put our money where our mouth is basically. But I've made a video. I told you in those videos that money is the root of all evil. And money, when I talk about money, I'm not talking about just the imaginary paper or the mixed thing that we call money that we exchange for things that we buy. Because money translates into control of land, control of resources, control of production, control of everything. So money is the root of all evil. And if you have a lot of it, that means you have a lot of it in resources, which you can extract to make products, which means manufacturing, which means control of the people that manufacture it, which means you have control of the policies, which means you have control of the narrative, which is what the media does. They control the narrative. And the media is owned by the corporations. And the corporations are owned by the 100 millionaires and the millionaires, the 100 millionaires and the billionaires. And the higher the figure that you make, that you have, means that the more influence and power, because you got more of everything. Understand, money is the root of all evil. And if we want a just society, we need to get rid of money. We need to get rid of ownership. We need to get rid of these imaginary borders and understand that the earth is for us all. Because money also controls where these imaginary borders are. Money creates a narrative of countries and nations. All right, I got far astray on this, but anyways, understand. We need to understand natural law and natural reality, and not this fake, illusionary and delusionary reality that we have lied to ourselves into believing.